What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Titletown South Florida, the Miami Herald's high school football show. I'm Andre Fernandez, your host, deputy sports editor at the Herald, joined once again by my wingman, Jordan McPherson, who is back for another episode. Always love that backdrop you and our good buddy George Richards has. Sports memorabilia galore back there. What's up, Jordan? We are done with the football season. Can't believe it already passed.
I know, it's incredible to think that the season's already over, but once again, another big year for South Florida. Got state titles in 3 of the 4 championships that we were eligible for, and all in all, very good year.
Yeah, good year overall. Probably could have been a little bit better, unfortunately. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute. 3 state championships, nothing to sneeze at. That's a good one. That's a good amount. But 2 teams fell short of their goal. We knew one was going to, because you had obviously the Dade-Broward game between Aquinas and Homestead, the rematch, which turned out to be a classic. But Norland, I still can't believe that happened. What an unfortunate after such a great season that they put together. I'm sure they're still hurting over there and in the Miami Gardens area up there near Hard Rock Stadium. Feel bad for Coach Heidelberg and the boys over there that put together a great year. And we will dive into that for sure, and as well as signing day or early signing period, whatever you want to call it. People used to call it National Signing Day. I don't know if they still do, but that big day, December 20th, is just a week away. So we're going to bring on a good friend of ours. Our guest is Charles Fishbein of Elite Scouting Services this week to talk a little bit about some of the top kids to expect that will sign on that day, maybe a couple that we're still kind of waiting to see what happens with them. But remember, we appreciate you watching the show, like always, at MiamiHerald.com. You can also catch it on YouTube, so it's free there. Please watch the show, and we appreciate all your support throughout the season. But let's dive right in. Let's look at the highlights of the 4 big matchups that happened up at Bragg Memorial Stadium in Tallahassee. But let's get the bad news out of the way first, which, as we mentioned, Norland. From the start, Jordan, they got cute on the first play. They throw that little wide receiver option, goes haywire, and they paid for it. Here's the play. As you can see, immediately, a turnover is not the way to set the tone in a game, and Norland did that. But then Donovan Fallord comes up with a big one near the goal line, picks off a pass, and hauls his way all the way to the end zone. And you're thinking, okay, Berkeley missed their window, right? Penalty flag. Here it is.
Touchdown, Vikings.
So that gets called back. Still had the ball, did not, but then Berkeley comes on a long drive, then get some points. And then Norland, of course, you're thinking, okay, maybe the momentum swing, another turnover.
Your first pass complete to Jade Card.
Berkeley took advantage. The Dallas Golden kid is very good. 4-star prospect. They used him a lot on direct snaps throughout the game. This kid is talented and basically tore them up, especially when they were going on those long possessions. Here's one of his touchdowns. But what can you say? Ennio Yapur, the second half, Norland got going a little bit, tried to bring the Vikings back. We've had this kid, a ton of highlights throughout the season. Here's 2 more. First a touchdown pass and then a run.
Touchdown, Vikings. Touchdown.
But then Berkeley's ball control offense dominated time of possession. It felt like 3-1 in the game. They just had the ball almost the whole game. And then this right here, New Orleans still had a chance, down by 1 score. If they get the ball back, the way their offense was clicking, you never know. Maybe they could have pulled this one out. But you cannot give up this 3rd and 18, missing 4 tackles the way they did on this play. Check it out. So Jordan, after all that, I don't know where this leaves New Orleans. I really don't. I think, they're going to graduate a ton of these seniors that they picked up. And Yoyopoor does have 1 more season left. But even then, there's some rumors floating around. Does he stay at New Orleans? I mean, our good friend Heidelberg, he doesn't even know what his coaching future looks like at this point as well. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see in the offseason what happens to the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, their team was very senior heavy this year. Obviously, Yoyopoor was a junior, but their running back, their top 2 receivers, basically that entire defense. It's going to be a lot of turnover there in New Orleans. Heck of a year for them. Tough to see how it ended. But like you mentioned with Berkeley Prep, it's basically that game reminded me of the Heritage game I covered in the state semi, where when Berkeley Prep started to get going, they were able to sustain the long drives and they were able to just kill clock. That Dallas Golden kid, he was great in Berkeley. He was great in the Heritage game and basically did the exact same thing to New Orleans. So it was very tough to see how that game ended. But again, great season for New Orleans. Again, we didn't know what to expect from New Orleans coming into the year. For them to get as far as they did and come up just short, got to take the good with the bad there, but still rough way for it to end up.
Yeah, you'd hate to see it all fall apart, but these days, you never know. I mean, this is what we were saying about Homestead last year. Remember, we were wondering if they would stay together, if they would break up. But you felt a little bit better in that situation because Homestead had all those guys were either underclassmen or juniors coming back to make another run. In this case, they're going to lose a lot regardless. And if some of these guys transfer out, it's going to be real hard to put that back together. What a shame they couldn't finish it off. But switching to Dade's only positive outcome at the state finals, and that was Columbus cementing that championship dynasty. For years, they were the getting close. Now in the last few years, Dave Dunn's had led them to 2 state titles. Now it's 3 after a great game plan that they executed against Jacksonville Mandarin. Here's an early wrinkle that they threw in there, putting 2 of their defensive standouts on offense. You had Hector Chavez scoring a touchdown, linebacker Hector Chavez, with a lead block from defensive lineman Dalen Russell. Here's a look. And then it was the running game led by the quarterback, Alberto Mendoza, 138 yards, 20 carries, and a lot of them on tough runs like this one. Their 2 backs, Edward Bandy and Agaman Adai, were huge. We had said that for weeks, that if they were going to have success at that level, they're going to need to run the football. They did. Here's Adai with a touchdown.
Touchdown, Columbus.
But still, Mandarin, tough as we pointed out in last week's show. That passing game, Tramel Jones, the quarterback going FSU, Jamie French, stud wide receiver that I would be shocked if he doesn't land in the NFL in a few years, pulled them within single digits with this combination for the touchdown here. But as we said before, too much Mendoza, too much Columbus passing game in this case. Another defensive standout, Bryce Fitzgerald. I really like this kid. Hauls in this touchdown pass, pretty much put the game away. So here's what Alberto Mendoza and the Triumphant Explorers had to say, both about winning the championship, going back-to-back, and his college situation. Now, a little reminder here, this was filmed after the game last Friday, Alberto has since committed to Indiana. So he's going to say a few things. He's going to mention Indiana in this interview. But don't worry, Hoosiers fans, he's still committed.
Alberto, just how does it hit you after the win to finish winning back-to-back titles? Not just today, but like just the whole journey.
I mean, it's amazing being able to come to Columbus, compete for the job, win one, come back. It's been a journey. I love my guys. It's amazing to be able to go out on a win. I can't even express it because I'm just so happy to be able to have such a great time at Columbus, and just they developed me so well. I don't even know.
When you think about it in the lens of it being a family legacy at quarterback, and for you to finish this way, how does that part of it?
I mean, yeah, my brother's watching all the way in California, getting ready for his bowl game, and he's been there supporting me since day one, since I had competition and everything. So he's been there every step of the way, and I couldn't ask for a better brother because he's been there. And my little brother too helps me so much. He designed shoes for me when I was committed to JMU. Designed JMU shoes for me, and he's just incredible. The support from my family, my dad, my mom, my dad. My dad's right here. It's just amazing the way my family supports me, rallies with me, and just anything that I want to do, they will support me. Whether it's football, business, whatever, they will support me. And I love everybody here.
Tell me about the approach today with the RPOs and just to be able to run the football, establish that early.
We knew that they had great DBs, a lot of talented, very, very talented DBs, so we knew we were going to have to run the ball, and we preached that all week, and we were going to have to run the ball with me so we could get that extra blocker, which is the running back, and we did that, and they couldn't stop us.
And you knew it was going to be physical. They were going to hit you. They were going to try even after the whistle, probably. Tell me about that part, just having that.
I mean, I'm not afraid of contact. I mean, obviously you don't want to get hit after the whistle. I've had some late hits this year, but I don't have a problem with it. It's part of the game, so I just got to protect myself as much as I can, and that's it.
Where's your mindset now as you're going into preparing for the next step? I know you opened it up again.
Yeah. Probably between Indiana and FAU right now. Those are my top two, and I'm going on official visits to both, so I'm open to all options. If any college coaches are watching, and I'm ready to go. I'm just happy. I'm excited for the next level.
And even though this athlete won't be signing this week, Bryce Fitzgerald, like we said before, a recruit to watch. Already has a bunch of Power 5 schools checking him out. Here's what he had to say after the game.
To get 2 championships like that within the same year, what's that like?
It feels good. When I came here, the coaches gave me a big task, and I was ready to take it on no matter what. And I told them I was going to bring it home, and I did.
Yeah, you had an unbelievable postseason with interceptions and doing all that on defense. But then today, to come with a big play to seal it on offense, what was that like?
It was a dream come true. My mom texted me before the game and said I need a big play, and I told her it was going to come late, but it happened.
Yeah, you got it. Tell me about just the future for you. I think you're going right to basketball after this, right?
Yes, sir. Monday. It's going to be a blessing to be able to come from a state championship there and be able to compete for another state championship.
All right, so there you have it. A Columbus back-to-back for the first time in school history. Congrats to the Explorers. This week, remember, we have as usual, our Player of the Week polls are up and ready to vote. Alberto Mendoza, one of those Players of the Week candidates. Others include Joshua Townsend. We'll show you a little bit on him later on in the show. Homestead's quarterback, 25 of 36, 286, 3 TDs, and 1 rushing as they nearly pulled it out against St. Thomas Aquinas in that 3M state championship game. Then in other sports, you've got Scarlett Bauer, again, dominating on the soccer pitch, 5 goals, 2 assists to lead the Falcons to wins over Miami Country Day, Carrollton, and Fort Lauderdale. Shania Gamble from Southridge, girls basketball, 41 points, 21 rebounds, 12 steals in 2 big wins for the Spartans. They beat Miami High and Miami Christian this week. The Spartans are a much improved squad this season. And on the boys basketball side, Jacob Marquez at Gulliver, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists as they beat defending Class 5A champion Belen Jesuit. In Broward, another quarterback, Andrew Indorf, who really came on strong in the second half of the season, 230 passing, 3 touchdown passes in that win over Homestead as Aquinas won their 5th consecutive state title. We'll have highlights of that coming up. Zach Crothers, the defensive lineman for Chaminade, 8 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss as they blanked Clearwater Central Catholic. Blank doesn't even cover it, 56-0. We'll also have highlights of that in a moment. Raul Leyva, boys soccer for University School, 3 goals in a win over Palmer Trinity. Jacob Lipson, the goalie for American Heritage, had a shutout in a win over Ronald Reagan. And then Gianna Corbett from Blanche Ely, 16 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block as the Tigers beat 3-time defending state champion St. Thomas Aquinas. Jordan, as you know, Ely likes to get Aquinas in girls basketball during the season, but the question is always, can they get them when it counts during the playoffs? We'll see, but it looks like Ely did it again in that regular season meeting.
Yeah, no, again, that's always a fun matchup between those two. Again, they see each other usually 3 to 4 times a year. They'll see them in the regular season, the BCAA Big Eight, and then usually either the regional semi or the regional final, depending on where they're seated. Lance usually got the first strike there, but we'll see what happens as rounds 2, 3, and possibly 4 happen throughout the season.
Yeah. So back to football, and we're going to go now to those Chaminade Lions, show you some of the highlights of this game, and what a dominant performance. I mean, if there was any doubt that which there really wasn't among us, but if anyone out there still wondered if Chaminade was the best team overall, they put their foot on the gas and slammed the pedal and never let up. And here's Jeremiah Smith, the guy we're going to talk about a lot, especially with Fish coming up here in a second. 11 catches, 170 yards, and a touchdown. Probably could have scored more if they would have kept throwing, but here's his first score at the beginning of the game. And then after Jeremiah got his, 2 big touchdown hookups here between NC State commit Cedric Bailey and UM commit JoJo Trader. Here's the first one early in the game. And then again, here was my favorite play. What an NFL-style catch to get both feet in bounds by JoJo Trader here in the corner of the end zone.
Touchdown, Chaminade.
And then you've seen so many times that Bailey throwing touchdown passes, Trader catching touchdown passes. Well, then they mixed it up and switched. And how funny that the last touchdown that each of them would score in their high school careers came that way, with Trader throwing a touchdown pass, Bailey catching one. Here's the switch. Here's the trick play right before the half. So all in all, a 56-0 rout, 3rd state title in a row for Chaminade. That's 6 out of 7 for Chaminade. This dynasty, I don't think, is going anywhere, Jordan. They're going to lose a few of the guys, including Smith, but Damian Jones and his crew, hats off to them. They continue to reload.
Yeah, I don't know what more we can say about them that we haven't said over, well, the last half a decade. But it's just incredible to watch how they rose up to the top and then stayed at the top. Like you said, they're going to lose some big guys. Obviously, Cedric Bailey's gone. Davion Goss is gone. Both Smith and Trader are gone. But they do have a lot of big pieces left. Kyle Washington's going to be a senior next year. They should be fine at running back. Arwin Jackson had a pretty good year as Goss's number 2 in the backfield. 731 yards and 10 touchdowns. Defense, again, I've never worried about Chaminade's defense. Even, again, they're going to lose Zaquan Patterson. They're going to lose a few other guys. But they just have the talent to be able to reload, restock, and again, there shouldn't be much worry about what's going to happen next year with the Lions.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is a team that's going to stay in the big picture national rankings. You know they're going to be part of that Broward showcase again. It's a shame they couldn't play for the national title against Gorman in a rematch, but the Geico thing apparently fell through. But they'll be fine. Here's a chat we had, an interesting chat we had, and I'm going to segue to Charles Fishbein afterward with Jeremiah Smith talking about Ohio State, making it sound like he's firmly committed, but kind of leaving the window open that maybe FSU is in on this, maybe even the Hurricanes have a shot. Here's what he had to say.
Win another one. I feel good. I mean, it's my last one. I mean, I'm a little emotional right now, but, last football, high school game, I mean, on to the next level, college. That's the only thing I'm worrying about right now, for sure.
From the beginning of the game, they just went your way. Talk about the game plan there to just get you involved right away.
I mean, started this week in practice. My coach was telling me we're going to feature a lot, starting first job. So, I mean, it happened. We got first three catches. The best ever. First 3 catches, made it work. The third catch, a touchdown. So I'm just happy to win my 3rd state title for sure.
obviously you're going to stay up here for the weekend and visit Florida State. Just talk about what you're looking for this weekend and kind of what the next 2 weeks might be like for you.
I mean, just enjoy myself this weekend, spend time with, Edwin Joseph and a lot of the rest of the players that's up here. Just try to coach my network around Duke and stuff like that, everything going and stuff like that, so that's all it is.
You've been at FSU several times. Is there anything you want to see out of this week and learn about it that maybe you didn't get on prior visits?
I mean, just see, I see everything I had to see. I'm just taking my OV. We just got to see how the official visit goes, and that's what I'm trying to do, so that's all.
Do you have any plans after the FSU visit as far as taking any trips or coming down and signing there?
No, that's it.
Jeremiah, talk about just the relationship already with them, what you saw this year, and just your impressions of FSU.
I mean, they had a big impression on me, definitely for sure. With Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, Jordan Travis. I mean, the offense looked unstoppable this year with Jordan Travis in there. But they definitely got butt from the college football playoffs for sure. Everybody knows that. They definitely should have been in there, but stuff happens. But they got to keep pushing. That's all.
After this weekend concludes, do you want to make a final decision Monday? Do you have any kind of timeline for putting it to bed?
No, just decision not gonna be made till December. I mean, the day of signing day. So that's all.
How do you feel about Florida State, even Ohio State, going into this trip? Where's your mind at right now?
It's just Ohio State. That's where my mind at. No other schools in my mind but Ohio State. I'm just taking official visit to Florida State. That's all.
Jeremiah, how much do you pay attention to the transfer portal with quarterbacks? It's a crazy time of year with guys switching.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a quarterback plays a big part, and as a receiver, that should definitely play a big part in your recruitment, because you don't want to just go there and nobody have a quarterback. So you got to have somebody to get you the ball. So that definitely plays a big part in your recruitment for sure. But all the transfer portal with the quarterbacks and stuff like that, it's crazy how many kids is in the transfer portal right now. It's actually shocking. But everybody got to fit what's best for them. So,
Going back to Ohio State for me, what keeps you feeling good about that commitment right now to Ohio State?
I mean, why not? You got Brian Hartline who pinned receivers in the first round. I mean, that's the reason why I'm trying to get this person on drop it.
Is Florida State the biggest threat to Ohio State?
Nobody's the biggest threat.
No? Is Florida still involved? Miami still involved?
Everybody's still involved, but there's no biggest threat.
Hey.
Yeah, so interesting chit-chat here that I'd like to have with our good buddy Charles Fishbein of Elite Scouting Services. We are welcoming him now to the program. Fish, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Nice fake living room back there. I love your backgrounds all the time.
Yeah, it's me, man. I like the piano.
There you go. You got to play for me sometime.
I suck at playing. I'm not.
No, we're talking a little bit about Jeremiah Smith, man. You're very familiar with this kid. He keeps it interesting right now. I mean, he's committed to Ohio State, but keeps kind of leaving the window open. How realistic of a shot do you think the Seminoles have at maybe flipping this kid at the last minute, maybe even the Hurricanes?
Yeah, I think Florida State has a legit shot at turning him. He's taken a visit up there. I believe he has an official visit that he took last weekend. They've had Keon Coleman have a very successful season. They wear the same number. I think they're trying to put it in his head that's what he's going to be like at Florida State. So they've done a good job of recruiting, and I think they have a legitimate shot at flipping him.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be. I mean, this kid, he just looks like he could be rookie starter in the NFL. Like all the tools he's got. Where does he, from what you've seen, who does he kind of look like to you? Where does he rank, do you think, on the best receivers you've ever seen at this level?
I mean, he's one of the best that I've seen down here. I mean, I didn't get the chance to see Andre Johnson in high school, so the comparisons to someone like Andre, but he's one of the top 5 receivers to come out of South Florida in the last 15, 20 years. He's got all the skill set. He's a big-time player. I think he's similar to, Keon Coleman that's played at Florida State this year. Big, long, athletic receiver that basically can do whatever he wants. You saw it in the state title game again. He doesn't need to catch a ball 50 yards down the field to impact a game. He could catch a 5-yard hitch and go the distance. He's a special talent.
Yeah, Fish, you're sticking with the group from Chaminade. JoJo Trader, obviously commit. What type of impact do you think he can have for the Canes? And then also with Chaminade, Cedric Bailey. He's committed to MC State, but obviously those Chaminade guys who are committed to you are trying to see if he can stay down there at the Gables. Any chance you think that flip could happen?
Yeah, as far as JoJo, as far as Trader, I think if he was on any other team, he'd be more highly regarded. He reminds me a lot of Rashad Green that played at Florida State. The kid always makes plays. I mean, he made one of the best plays that I've ever seen in a state championship game. He got both feet down in the back of the end zone. He did a pro job, not a college job, as far as getting both feet down. As far as Cedric's a kid that developed. Here's a kid that early on in his career, you would have probably thought, all right, this is going to be a G5 type quarterback. He's developed into a Power 5 kid. I like him. I think Miami has a very good shot at flipping him just because he wants to play with these guys that he played with in high school. He's got a ton of talent. He still does, we talk about it. He always has that one pass a game where you're like, oh my God, what was he thinking? But he started to, I didn't see that in the state championship game, but as long as he stays away from those mental mistakes like that, he could be a very good quarterback in college.
Fish, a lot of talent on that field over the past few days in Tallahassee. Just one of the kids, I know we had a long talk about different quarterbacks that were playing in this game. Mendoza just committed to Indiana, but the Joshua Townsend kid, I mean, he could throw, man, and I'm surprised he doesn't have at least some kind of D1 offer. Do you see that emerging now that he showcased himself now in that second half of that game, especially?
I mean, you never know. We've seen it before. I remember the quarterback from Miramar had a big game, and he ended up committing to Miami. I don't think he had but like one offer at the time. I forgot the kid's name. That it's been a while, but it's happened before where guys have had big games. And listen, college coaches look to see how they do on that stage. And Townsend had a phenomenal game. I thought, he was one of the better quarterbacks that we saw this weekend, and his stock has definitely gone up. He did a great job, and he always seemed in control. It wasn't like he's just improvising. He was making plays with both his arm and legs, and I think he deserves a shot at playing at the next level.
Yeah. What do you think of on Columbus on that defense? Dalen Russell and guys like that, like just what they can do. I mean, Russell, I know, committed to Miami. It wasn't super highly rated, but a kid that's really developed a lot this year.
Yeah, I mean, Russell's kind of like, you got to hope that he's like a Kalijah Cansey, who was undersized in high school and just made a lot of plays. And that's what Dalen was in on, a lot of plays in the state title game. I think he had 8 or 9 tackles. It seemed like he had a sack or some tackles for loss. I think, yes, he's undersized, but you can move him around. He could play some DN. He could kick inside to D tackle. I think he's going to get to that 285, 290-pound range once he gets to college. Production has to mean something. He's a very productive player. There's other guys we saw that were highly rated that did not produce at all. That wasn't the case with Dalen. At worst case scenario, I think he could be a rotational guy at UM and give them some minutes, give them snaps, which is huge. You can never have enough depth. And it's of my belief, if you can go and get as many D linemen as you can, you take them. And he's definitely a kid I think could be productive at University of Miami.
Yeah, the Derek Plaz kid too for I think I'm saying his name right. The kid from Mandarin, the big old lineman, impressed me a little bit too, even though they lost the game. But I mean, Miami looks like Miami's got something good there up front for the O-line.
Yeah, they've done a great job of evaluating offensive linemen. Plaz dominated a kid on one play. I think he hip tossed a kid like it was nothing. But you could see what Mario likes. He's a big, strong, physical kid, can move. It's all about things with offensive linemen. I think people overrate star rankings with O-linemen because really a lot of them, these guys don't see what they can be like 2-3 years down the road. It's developing. Is a kid, can he bend? Is he athletic in the lower body? Can he move laterally? Does he want to live in the weight room? It's more of what that kid's willing to do off the field. Is he willing to put the time in? Is he coachable? If he's those things, he has all the stuff. They could teach technique. They could teach a kid to get bigger and stronger. But if the work ethic is there and a kid's coachable, and this kid seems like that, he's going to be very good.
Fish, we've talked about a lot of the big names that were out there at state this past weekend. Is there anyone who maybe is under the radar on the national level that you think that stood out, that impressed you either over the weekend or throughout the season, really, that could have a chance to see their stock rise after what they were able to do out of state?
Yeah, I don't know. He was already on the radar a little bit, but Dallas Golden, I don't know. I thought he was right up there. His performance was right up there with Jeremiah Smith. Here's a kid that plays at Berkeley Prep. I think most people felt like Norland was going to pretty much dominate. This kid took over a game. You don't see that very often at the high school level, where a guy literally puts a team on his back and brings them across the finish line like he did. And he still has another year. I think he's a guy that I went into the weekend thinking, all right, this guy's, a group of five, a top end group of five to lower end power five to this kid may be a 5-star recruit. I mean, that's the thing is you got to watch these kids live. I believe in person. The film's great, but you want to see one of the big things when you're scouting or evaluating players is how they perform under pressure. That's why the performance of the kid from Homestead was so impressive. Dallas was just, it really was impressive. I mean, every time they needed a big play, he stepped up. They also had a running back, Troop, who I thought was very, very good. Just reminded me of Ray Rice, very powerful in the lower body. I think they had at the end of the game, they had a 3rd and 22 or whatever, or 18, and he ran for whatever they needed for a first down and end of the game. And I think that's a kid that is going to be more heavily recruited after this weekend than he was before.
Yeah, and the seeing them live part, especially in big games like this too, see how they step up in those games. And a guy,
Joseph Troop.
Yeah, and another one too. I wanted to ask you about Cortez Mills. He looked incredible. I mean, I know he's already rated a 4-star, but this is the kid that could even add that 5th star maybe. Just they had that full extension catch during the comeback. I mean, this kid's been amazing the entire season. What do you think of his chances?
It's crazy. Like Cortez, I saw as like an 8th grader. He was at one of these 7-on-7s. He was on a 1500 team, and he was the best player there. Him and Dalen Russell were both on the same team. That's when I realized Dalen was pretty athletic. The kid's catching balls and running routes at 250 pounds. But I think Cortez has a chance to be really good. He may end up a corner in college as well. He has that length and athletic ability, very good feet. He may be one of those guys like an Xavier Rhodes that was a wide receiver in high school, ends up turning into a corner and playing in the league one day. So he's definitely a kid that I think is going to blow up this spring, and you're going to see everybody in the country offer him.
What do you think of Bryce Fitzgerald? Does he end up – I know the kid likes playing receiver, but it probably ends up on the defensive side at the next level maybe?
That's what I have him projected as a safety, yeah. Fitzgerald. He was at Baylin, and I remember I had ran into Coach Stewart at one of the games, and he's like, listen, Fish, you better take a look at my safety. He's only a freshman. He's really good. I said, Coach, I'll check him out. And he stood out on a very good Baylin team. And then, he goes over to Columbus this year. He's one of their best players. He makes an impact in most of the games, and he's definitely going to be on everybody's radar in the spring.
Well, Fish, as always, man, thank you very much for joining us on the show, and looking forward to that piano lesson one of these days from your nice living room back there.
It looks like your friend has a lot of cards. I'm going to have to come over and buy some of them,
They're not even his. They're his roommate's cards. How about that?
His roommate won't even know they're missing. I'll buy them.
Yeah, you got time. Whenever you want to come up here, we'll figure it out.
All right, no problem.
All right, Fish. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And thank you for joining us as always. Charles Fishbein, Elite Scouting Services, everybody does a great job helping those kids get into college for years, and we appreciate the time.
Take it easy. Bye.
All right. Well, like I said before, Fish always a lot of valuable insights there. We'll keep talking to him and as we go forward with this program in the months to come as the off season gets pretty interesting, like always. But remember, signing day, December 20th. Remember to check out all our coverage. Jordan and I will both be doing something that day, as we always are. David Wilson, our good friend, will be out there again, covering all the big signings on signing day next Wednesday. And we're going to finish the show looking at that game, that Aquinas-Homestead game that we teased to earlier. Aquinas looked like they were about to turn it into a laugher in the first half, up 17-0 at halftime. Big reason? Jordan Lyle, that powerful running back for the Raiders, dominating, knocking people over. Look at this run he had right here. But then if St. Thomas fell asleep, Homestead took advantage. They ignited in the second half, made this one of the best games of the weekend, arguably the best game of the weekend involving South Florida teams. Here's Joshua Townsend, the aforementioned Joshua Townsend, finding Louisville commit Isaac Brown, another kid. Forgot to ask Fish a little bit about him, but not only as a running back, he made some big plays in the receiving game. Here's one. And then that Cortez Mills kid, who I'm telling you, I have a feeling he could end up elevating to maybe a 5-star status as a senior. Here's that full extension catch we mentioned earlier that set up a touchdown late. Ball! But in the end, it was the same painful, probably even more painful ending than last year for Homestead. They had a chance to tie it. This one was the only one. They were down 24-21, decided not to kick it, go for it. And Aquinas' defense fell on Joshua Townsend. Trevor Summers making the big play here for the Raiders defensive line. Here's the sack. After that, it was all over. The Raiders went up 31-21. Even though Townsend came back, got a late touchdown, they went for an onside kick, but Aquinas recovered and ran out the clock with Jordan Lyle. 5th state championship in a row. How about this Aquinas program? I know we talked about Chaminade earlier, Jordan, but 15 state titles now overall. And Roger Harriet talked about the foundation that George Smith and everyone that came before had, but they have sustained it. And it's funny, we mentioned all these other powerhouses, but Aquinas just keeps rolling on, and it doesn't look like any end in sight.
Yeah, I mean, to use their phrase, they're the standard. That's really it's what it is at this point, and it's been that way for a while. I mean, you see every year, it's just they graduate a bunch of their big dogs, and then all those guys who were second teamers who got the garbage time play at the end of their blowout games end up proving, hey, they could have done exactly what their predecessors did. And you look at the group that they had, obviously Jordan Lyle, big year, almost 1,400 yards and 21 touchdowns. Big year from their quarterback, Andrew Indorf. Played 66% of his passes, 28 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. He's only a junior, so they'll have their quarterback back for next year. The 1-2 puncher receiver with James Madison and C.J. Robinson. Again, those two are both seniors, so they're going to have to replace them. And the defense doing what it always does, just obviously just shutting teams down night after night, week after week. And it was a healthy mix of juniors, seniors, and a couple sophomores in there. So they'll have some foundation on that defense coming back next year. And number 16 overall and number 6 in a row, it's definitely not out of the question next year.
Here's Jordan Lyle talking about all of that and the Raiders' success this season and his own recruiting prospects.
On that 3rd and 3, you see the hole open, you get through it, you know you just clinched it. What's going through your mind?
That's all. That's all my coach stressed to me. Getting that first down, and that's what we had to do. I had to go through it.
Just the resilience of the team when they come back in the second half, and just to hold them off that way. What did it take as a team?
And now it's just really the defense. The defense. They did their dog. When they needed to show up, they showed up. I'm proud of those guys. We've been talking about it since week 1. We're going to go through some adversity, and that's what we went through right now. We stuck to the plan. The defense has a great leader, Nick Rodriguez. Great senior leader. And I'm just proud of those guys. They showed up involved.
5 in a row, never been done before. What's that to be a part of?
It's great to be a part of history. But I can't wait to see my guys next year. Break it and make it 6. So I'm just proud of them.
Yeah, so that's the Raiders. But let's talk a little bit about this Homestead team. You feel for them. 3 years in a row, they've been bounced by the Raiders, and they keep getting a little closer. The first year was a debacle, 56-7. They weren't ready. Last year, more competitive, 38-21. This year, they're down to the wire with St. Thomas, maybe a play or two away from getting that state championship. But now you lose a lot. You lose the guys like Townsend. You lose a guy like Isaac Brown and several others, on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if we're looking at a similar situation to Norland, where now it's going to be hard to rebuild and get it back together, or Has Homestead reached the point where do they dominate the South area down there enough to reload and regroup? Cortez Mills still on the roster, a kid that if he stays there would be a huge weapon to have.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning more towards Larry. I think for where they are geographically, I think they've established themselves for that South Dade area. That even though they're going to be losing a lot, I feel like they're going to be able to. I feel like they'll be able to hold their group together. But now, just the question is, how much will they be able to replace the lost talent? Obviously, keeping the main guys who aren't graduating is going to be key. But will they be able to replace that talent with either the guys who are still on the roster or guys who they'll end up bringing in? And also I think we're going to talk about this right after this, just where will they be in terms of how the state's going to be shaking up the field next year? I honestly don't remember where they were classification wise before this whole reclassification, but that could play into their hand as well.
Yeah, I think they were in the 6A, the second highest
so.
class
Yeah,
before.
Yeah.
And seeing how the enrollment is, I mean, if they're doing it the same way, it's probably going to be somewhere in there, either 6A, 5A, somewhere in that mix. Unless they somehow have added more enrollment and end up in 7A, which at that point, then the battle conceivably would be with Columbus and teams like that. But yeah, the big news this week, no more Metro Suburban, which personally I'm glad, because a lot of teams I get the whole more competitive at state thing, but at the same time, a lot of teams down here, like a Homestead, look at that, 2 years in a row, they run into a buzzsaw like St. Thomas and can't get past it. If they're in, this is 2 years in a row where I could tell you for sure, if they were in one of these other classes, you're looking at Homestead having a back-to-back state championship with two of the best teams they've ever had in school history. So spreading it back out was the vote. They're going 7A to 1A, 8 classes overall if you count the rural division, but Dade and Broward teams will be spread out over 7 classes. Now, the interesting part, and we'll finish the show on this, what about this open division thing? Because the proposal was to have 8 teams overall, basically pluck the top 8 teams from all 7 classes and have them do a overall winner-take-all format championship, which would be fun to watch. But if it's 8 teams, maybe. But I also wonder how much it could water down the other 7 championships if they do this too. And that's the whole trick right there. You don't want to overload it and make it like, at first I heard 32 teams. And I'm thinking at that point, the rest of them are going to be, let's just say it bluntly, they're going to suck, because you're going to have mid-level teams playing for state titles. You don't want that at the same time. But that got tabled for now. It may come up again late February when they meet again, when the board of directors meets again. But I don't know. What do you think of this, Jordan? If they do this open playoff format, especially if they do it with 8 teams, I mean, you could see Chaminade and St. Thomas and Central all involved in a do or die tournament, and then we kind of go back to the same problem where one of the best teams in the nation won't win their state title because of the logjam.
Yeah, but for me on that line, gives more of the national championship contention feel to it. Basically, whoever comes out from that is basically going to be a representative for a national championship. And that gives them a little bit more stock in that versus going for a Chaminade basically cruising through and winning 2A or 3A, wherever they would be in, where they would know they would win that state title. For a team like a Chaminade, if they're able to go into the open and go, okay, we know where we are, but now we can prove it at the highest level. We've played all the big teams in the regular season. Can we beat them when it all comes down to the final, when it comes down to when it matters the most? That, for me, that gives a little bit more weight to it. I agree that, yes, it basically makes it so that probably have less state champions down here, but it could open the door for some of those teams that, look at 2M, for example, that had that big logjam where you had the American Heritage seems to fall one step short, a Cardinal Gibbons, between Central and Norland having the chance to come back in. Basically, that would open the door for some of these big powerhouses that, similar to the Homestead situation, may have been stuck in that logjam, have a chance to win at their state level while maybe the bigger team from their classification goes for the open field. I can see both sides of it. Again, for me, like you said, the number of teams in the open division really is what would be the big factor. 8, maybe 16. I think 16 would be the absolute max you can go. 32 would just be, to me, would be overkill.
Yeah, 32 is way too watered down, I think. It's interesting. I'm looking at the rankings, how they finished this season. If, let's say, I'm not saying this is exactly how it would be, But if you took the top 8 that were ranked going into the playoffs this year, you would have had Chaminade, Norland, St. Thomas, and American Heritage all in that top 8 tournament. The others would have been Cocoa, who we know was very good, won their division this year. Clearwater Central Catholic, who just got manhandled by Chaminade in that game. And then interesting, a Lake Mary team that went 9-1 during the season was in that top 8. They got bounced right away in the first round. So it shows you that if you get those 8 teams at the beginning of the postseason, you'll definitely have your powerhouses, but you could even have a team that could either catch fire and maybe surprise some people, or a team that maybe wasn't worth being there. So it's very interesting to see how this is going to turn out, I think, if they do decide to go this route. But like you said, I do like keeping it. I even like keeping it to 8. I think even 16 is a little too risky of watering it down too much. I like 8. Put them in there. If they do it, go with 8.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. We appreciate everybody for watching. As we said before, National Signing Day next week. Follow all our coverage of it on MiamiHerald.com. And we'll be back soon, maybe even for the next year, for the 2024 calendar year, as we follow off-season recruiting going on. And we know there's going to be a lot to talk about there. And as we said before, if there's a change to this open division format, the classifications aren't even done yet. We don't know where teams are going to land in the restored 7A, 1A look. So we'll have all of that for you in the coming weeks and months. But for now, for Jordan McPherson, I'm Andre Fernandez. Thanks for watching Titletown South Florida. Happy holidays, everybody.